Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe and your host of the Dr. Vibe Show, saying you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and you're a solution for someone's problem. And if you want to touch base with us during our conversation, live conversation tonight via Google Hangout, just touch base with me at DRVIBESHOW. And if you want to touch base with our guest, she'll give her Twitter handle out as she introduces herself. Now, also, you can catch me monthly at The Good Men Project. I'm the host of the monthly Google Hangouts for premium members, also co-producing with Marie Roker-Jones. So you can catch me out there, The Good Men Project, one of the most viewed sites for men in the world, averaging about 5.4 million unique visitors a month and 25 million page views a month. So yeah, they're busy. They're busy over there. We're very busy. But tonight we have another new friend of the Dr. Vibe Show. Her and I have been in communication, geez, for a while via Twitter. A lot, like maybe over a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
And finally, she has taken time from her positive, productive schedule to hang out with us tonight. We have Dr. Tursha Hamilton. She's a highly trained and favored naturopathic physician who provides a high level of individualized care to her patients. Dr. Hamilton is trained as a family care physician and treats both acute and chronic conditions, but has a passion for treating diabetes, obesity, and GI complaints. And those are very prevalent, especially in North American society these days. Her focus is to employ the most natural and holistic therapies available to stimulate the body's internal healing while fostering new habits and traditions that will produce and maintain the most optimal health possible. Dr. Hamilton sees patients from all over the world, both in office and via phone or Skype. Man, this lady is a global physician. I love it. Online, she's speaking my lingo. Online, around the world. Good stuff. She graduated from Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona, where she focused on diabetes care and medical nutrition. Prior to medical school, Dr. Hamilton studied biology pre-med at Xavier University, yes, of Louisiana, and cellular body exercise physiology at the University of Memphis. This lady is seriously educated. Dr. Hamilton is the author of 2 books, Practically Healthy, Step-by-Step Guide to Better Health, and also Practically Healthy, Roadmap to Success. And she's going to be chatting about those also tonight. She's also a longtime co-host of the Family Health Talk, formerly Men's Health Talk. Radio broadcast that aired weekly since 2009. She has been featured on various radio and television broadcasts nationwide and has written articles for professional and lay publications. She's currently an adjunct faculty at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. So welcome to the show. Blessed and highly favored and educated.
Absolutely.
How are you?
I am actually great. It's been a great day, a wonderful week, so it is good. Things are going very well. Thank you.
Well, it's a blessing and a favor to have you on the show tonight. And as I said to Dr. Hamilton before, she's in the past. She's chatting for us, and she's chatting because she's 3 hours behind where we are, and she's enjoying.
Right.
But she's ahead in the weather.
I still have sunshine behind me.
Yeah, and you got warm weather, which we're looking for in Toronto eventually. So you may be behind in time, but you're ahead in pleasure and comfort.
In climate, absolutely.
Absolutely. So as we do traditionally on the Dr. Vibe Show, I spewed out a whole bunch of stuff about education, this and that, but let's go back. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. So I'm a New Orleans girl. I'm a Saints fan. Go Saints!
Yeah.
So love football.
Who dat?
Who dat? That's right.
Yeah.
I'm a who dat girl.
All right. And what was? Yeah, I know about those things. There you go. What was growing up like in New Orleans?
Well, I didn't realize it was any different from growing up anywhere else until I went to college. I actually went to college in New Orleans as well, and we had a lot of students that transferred into Xavier from other places, from other parts of the country, and a few international students, but mostly other parts of the country. And that's when I started to realize how differently we lived from other people. But I thought that growing up in New Orleans was wonderful. It's a place that has really, really great people. Very heartfelt, very welcoming. Everyone is doll and baby, Cher, sweetheart. Everyone, it's just like a big family on some level. So it was good. It was good. At least I think my experience was good.
Good stuff. And what was school like, education like?
Well, again, I don't know any different. I don't know if I did what most inner city kids do. I went to public schools, but I was in, like the advanced programs. I loved science. I loved logic. So I took advantage of a lot of those type things. So yeah, to me, education was good.
And were your parents pushing, driving the importance of education for yourself from a young age?
They did. It wasn't necessarily an overt push, but they did. Like I always had books around me. So when I go in houses now that don't have books, it just seems really odd to me because I grew up with books. I grew up with a set of encyclopedias in the house, and so when I needed to know something, I was told go to the encyclopedia and look it up. Um, when I was a toddler, I actually told my parents that I wanted to be a doctor. And so ever since then, they have encouraged me to keep that alive. They bought me Dr. Sets. They called me Dr. Tursha or Dr. Hamilton. So again, it wasn't necessarily you have to go to school, you have to go to college, because that was just me. I already knew what I wanted to do. So it wasn't like they had to force me or they had to sow a seed. The seed was already there, and they just continued to encourage me.
Now, you said that education and the love for knowledge started at a young age. Where did the love of science start?
Again, when I was little, I knew I wanted to be a doctor because I actually had asthma growing up. And I think I was diagnosed somewhere around the age of 3 or 4, somewhere between 3 and 5. And I wanted to be like my pediatrician because he made me feel better. So I guess I had an innate love of sciences just because every time I had an opportunity, I was dissecting something. I was in like junior high, I was in the AEP classes, so the advanced classes where we were, doing things that other students in the inner city school in New Orleans may not have been doing. In high school, I was in advanced placement sciences, or I was in the pre-med program. So I don't really know where it came from. It's just always been there. So it's always been a part of me.
So, and you're just sharing with us during our conversation how you went, it was a vision at a young age. So what was college like? What was going to all these different schools? Because you obviously had that vision. Was it were there any challenging times as you were going through that period of your life?
Yeah, school's not easy. School wasn't necessarily easy. And even though I had a science background, I was a biology major and a chemistry minor in undergrad, and I always had that drive, I always had that desire, but it wasn't necessarily the easiest thing. It wasn't the most difficult thing. For me, physics was difficult, biochemistry was difficult, but I still loved sciences, and I already knew what I wanted to be, so there was really no, let me pick something else because that's what I was supposed to do. So yeah, it was definitely challenging at times, but I got through it.
Absolutely. So, do you remember the day that you graduated, and what was that like? And when you graduated, who was in attendance to see that special moment?
From college?
Yes.
I don't necessarily remember the day that I finished. Well, I can tell you the date that I finished. And the reason why I remember the date is because 3 days later, I cut all my hair off. So
Why did you do that?
Well, because I had the whole relaxed hair, chemically processed hair, and so I'd gone through like a 1-year transition period where I had to mentally make some changes, and make some transitional things happen so that I would be okay with transitioning from chemically processed hair to natural hair. And so I finished school December 15th, and I cut my hair December 18th. So I don't really remember. My graduation actually wasn't until that following. I didn't graduate with my classmates. I graduated with the class behind me. So I don't really remember. I know some of my family was there, but I don't really remember it.
No problem. And what was your next step after graduating from college?
Well, I didn't feel like I wanted to be a doctor anymore, actually.
That's interesting.
And I know. And I did not want to live in New Orleans anymore. My mother had moved to Memphis, Tennessee about a year and a half prior to that. So I decided after a process of elimination that I would move to Memphis with my mother. And so while I was in Memphis, I actually went to graduate school, and that's when I was in the program for cellular biology, and then I also studied exercise physiology. And I realized I hated research. So that was extremely challenging because it was me in a room with a bunch of beakers and weird fluids and a strange guy with a really long beard that collected newspapers, and it was just odd. It wasn't something that I liked. I also, because I didn't like research, I moved on to the next thing. So while I was there, I was a personal trainer. I did some teaching. I hung out with bodybuilders. I did a few other things. And so it was from that, during that time that I actually met some people who helped me figure out what it is that I was supposed to do, and that ended up being how I got to naturopathic medicine.
And why did you choose naturopathic medicine compared, because it's a little bit different than what you studied going to school?
Bit different.
Yeah, why was that? Why make that choice?
Well, like I said, I had met a community of people during the time that I was in Memphis, and they were the ones who actually taught me about cleansing, fasting, using food as medicine, using herbs as medicine. I had never heard that before, and so I was fascinated by that type of healing. And when during that time, I don't remember who it was, but during that time, one of the elders around me said, "Oh, you should be a naturopath." And I had no clue what that was. And so at the time, I looked it up, and when I researched what a naturopathic doctor was, I realized that it incorporated all the sciences that I had taken. It incorporated some research. It incorporated physical medicine or exercise, that I'd studied. It incorporated teacher, because one of the principles of naturopathic medicine is docere, which is doctor as teacher. The word doctor means teacher. So with all of that being said, like everything from my past was incorporated into naturopathic medicine, and I was able to treat people using conventional medicine. So I can do minor surgery, I can write prescriptions, I can order labs, I can do all the typical things, but I can also use ancient medicine. So I learned acupuncture and Chinese medicine in my education. I learned homeopathy, hydrotherapy. I learned physical medicine, like all of these different modalities that I've learned to use that I can incorporate in treatment programs when I meet people. So as well as nutrition and herbs, of course. So whenever I'm looking at someone to figure out how best to treat them to help their body heal itself, I have a wide range of things to pull from depending on where the patient is mentally, what the patient understands, what the patient likes, what they accept and don't accept, and where the patient is. So I can use all of those things to help them out.
So after you did all your studying in naturopathic medicine, what did you do after you graduated? What did you do?
I took a break.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Because I was exhausted. The program, if anybody ever has the notion that naturopathic medicine, medical school, or naturopaths have it easy because we didn't go to a traditional medical school, because we actually do have our own naturopathic medical schools, and they are 4-year programs. If anyone has any notion that the program is easy, they are highly, highly, highly mistaken, because we basically have to learn all of the basic sciences and all of the treatment protocols that our MD counterparts have to learn. But we also, in that same period of time, have to learn all of these other treatment methods as well in that same 4 years, while we're learning how to treat patients, while we're honing our skills at being a doctor. So yeah, after I graduated, I took a break. I didn't want to see medicine. I didn't want to talk medicine to anyone for a while, and I did that.
And when did you decide it was time to enter back into the fray, so to speak?
It was probably about, it was toward the end of that same year. So I didn't take a break as long as I probably wanted to or probably needed to, but I did take a little break. So within a year, I was back in it.
What are some of the misconceptions, if there are any, about naturopathic medicine that you've heard? And if you've heard them, can you refute them, or, well, you know what? Why not? Because obviously I have heard in my journey some criticisms or concerns with it. What are some of the ones that you have heard, and can you address them?
Can I hear the ones you've heard first, and then I can tell you what I've heard?
It's not real medicine.
Okay.
That's the one I hear prevalently. It's not real medicine. That's one I've heard most often.
Okay. Well, and that's another thing. Like I said, it depends on where a person is. So if someone doesn't really accept what I do, or does not accept the background or the use of the way we use medicines or healing methods, then that's okay. That means that we're not for them, and that's perfectly fine. But it is real medicine. There are some naturopaths out there who use a lot of medications, so they use all the prescription medications, and there are some who are completely against prescription medications. So philosophically, depending on where the patient is, where the person is, where the doctor is, that would determine what type of treatment a person gets. I am in the middle, where I will use a medication if I need to. I prefer not to. If I can do the same thing without a medication, then I will definitely do that, because I don't want to have them fall into that paradigm of using another medication if there's another thing that we can use to actually stimulate healing in their body as opposed to suppression. So, I've heard that too. That's probably the major thing. I've heard it in a lot of different ways, but it all ends up being the same thing, that we're odd, we're weird, we're all hippies, we don't know real medicine, we don't do real medicine. So, I'm okay with that.
It's all good. It's all good.
Absolutely.
How has the public's opinion changed as you have been in the discipline for a while? How do you feel it's changed since you first got involved in this discipline?
Well, I will say one thing. I will say that it seems like the Western world as a whole seems to be more open to alternative treatments. Now, whether that comes from a naturopathic doctor or not, that still remains to be seen. But a lot more people are open to alternative methods of treatment. So there are a lot more people that are using supplements. There are a lot more people who are exploring herbs. There are a lot more people who are trying to eat leafy green vegetables. Unfortunately, many people are not getting the results that they're expecting because they're not doing it quite right, or they're not doing enough. So if a person has, hypertension, diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, or any number of cancer, or any number of things like that, and they decide that they're going to eat more kale, well, eating a lot of kale can be extremely beneficial, but that's not enough. That's not going to get to the root cause. That may help build some level of foundation, but depending on where they are and what their condition is, they probably need a lot more. And so unfortunately, when people do that and it doesn't work, or they take an herb or they take a supplement and it doesn't work, they say that naturopathic medicine doesn't work. when in actuality, it just wasn't done properly, or it wasn't done enough to help them in their particular situation.
Good stuff. Well, you know what? Let's start getting into some of the core stuff that you wanted to share with us tonight. And
Yes,
first off, yeah, we first want to talk about fasting, and I guess it's already warm where you are, but where I
yes,
am, it's getting warmer, and people, of course, want to look good in their summer
absolutely,
outfits, and
absolutely,
uh,
absolutely.
and fasting is also, it's become more and more popular these days. But
Hmm.
again, what is your take on fasting? What is in your opinion, a proper fast, not a proper fast? And maybe let's start with, what is the definition of fasting for Dr. Tursha?
A fast is basically when you abstain from something. In this case, we're talking about foodstuffs. But a fasting is when you abstain from something. Now, do I believe in fasting? Absolutely. Any major religion out there talks about fasting. Most major religions have some period of fasting as a part of their tradition, as a part of just what they do in that particular religion, whether it's Lent or it's Ramadan or it's some other observance. So fasting is not a new phenomenon. We feel like it's new sometimes because people don't do it as much as we used to. But fasting is hugely beneficial. What fasting does, especially when you're talking about fasting from foods or beverages, is it gives the body a rest, a much needed rest, because these days we tend to overeat, which is why we have a lot more oversized people than we used to, or we have a lot more people who are overburdened mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because we have too much stimulation, whether it's food stimulation, drink stimulation, electronic stimulation, music, videos, words, pictures. It's too much. And by fasting, you give yourself a rest from those things so your body can actually have some time to sift out some of those things, to get rid of some of the bad things, to absorb some of the good things, to actually weed out and pay attention to what's already there. And it's not able to happen unless we're able to fast. So fasting is hugely beneficial. Now, how long a person fasts or what type of fast people do, that's really individual. There are a lot of churches who will do a fast, like I said, for Lent, for example, and they will pick something to fast on, whether it is a one-day water fast, or they'll do a juice fast, or they'll do the Daniel fast, or something to that effect. I say that whatever person decides to do, plan it plan it so that they are mentally prepared for what may happen. It's not always, they may not always be 100% ready for what happens during the fast, but at least it gives them more preparation than not. So fasting is very beneficial, and it is something that everyone should do at least once a year.
Now, and that's a great take that I want to build on, and that with a conversation piece. You're saying everyone should do it once a year, but how long for? Like when someone fasts,
Hmm.
how long should they do a food fast for? And what are the, like, say, let's take an example here. Say I've never fasted before, and I come to you,
Hmm.
doctor, and say, doctor, I'd like to do a food fast.
Okay.
What questions would you ask me in order for me to get the maximum benefit of a food fast?
One of the things I would like to know is, again, I'd ask if you've ever done one before, and if you say no, then I would definitely start thinking less time, because you don't want to do a fast for 40 days and 40 nights and you've never done it before. That might cause way more problems than healing.
Right.
Um, I would ask what your resources are. So, do you have fresh water? Do you have a support
Okay,
system?
let's hold it right there. Fresh
Okay.
water. Define fresh water.
Non-tap water.
Okay.
Unless you live in some place where the water is pristine, then you probably want to use some type of filtered water.
So, okay, so let's build on that, because I
Mhm.
always see people buying bottled water.
Mhm.
Is that okay?
Bottled water can be okay. The only problem with bottled water is the plastic.
Yeah.
Plastics, when plastic is heated, the particles and the chemicals from the plastic can actually leach into whatever is contained in that plastic. So, herein lies another problem. So, getting the 16-ounce bottles of water may not be the best, but it might be better than tap water. So, if you're trying to say good, better, best, you have to kind of choose. So if that's all you have available, then by all means use what you have available. If you can get cleaner water, if you have a filtration system, if you have like a filtration system, or if you have reverse osmosis water or something like that, those things are probably better. Some people even do distilled water for a cleanse or a fast, but just something cleaner than tap water.
So continue on. So you're asking me about water and also how long to do. What other questions would you ask someone who hasn't done a fast before?
How long do they want to do one? Just so that I can see where they are. They might say a day, they might say 3 days, they might say 7 days. Again, I just want to kind of see where they are. I'd ask them what type of fast they had planned, and then I'd ask them if they are doing this during their regular work day or if they're going to take some time off. Because if you're going to go on about your normal activities, you may not need to go on as strict a fast, just because a fast can be mentally and physically taxing. And if you have all the normal stressors going around or around you, then you might not want to do as stringent a fast because you still have all the other distractions around you. Like I said, all of the major religions have some aspect of fasting as a part of their religion, and usually it's fast and pray. So when you're fasting and praying, you're not doing a whole lot of other things, because during prayer time, you're quiet. You are reflecting. You're having a conversation with God. You're doing all of these things. You're not busy. You're not watching TV. You're not listening to, high impact music that may not necessarily have the most positive message. You're not doing all of these things. And so if a person is just going on their regular day, then I may modify the fast that they do and do maybe something like a juice fast or a smoothie fast or a raw vegetable fast or something like that, so they're still continuing to get some nutrients, as opposed to doing a water fast, because a water fast is pretty intense, because you start to realize how much food is a part of your life, whether or not you're hungry or you need to eat. You're thinking about food a lot more.
Interesting stuff, because I actually did a fast for a weekend earlier on this year, and it wasn't difficult. I took my mind from eating,
right,
and it wasn't a straight water fast. I don't think I'm ready yet,
right,
for something like that, but I certainly noticed it did the job. I certainly felt different. I felt better in regards to doing it, so it was a positive thing. If someone is, and maybe this is a conversation piece better at the end, but if someone wants to do a fast, who would be the best person to get advice from? Would it be a naturopath? Would it be their doctor? Like, who would they be getting the best information from when it comes to fasting?
I would say if they have access to a naturopath, definitely one who has studied fasting, has done fasting, and can help them monitor their situation. If they go to their family physician, it's much better to go to one that has actually done some fasting before, just so that they can actually support them through that process, as opposed to saying, no, you shouldn't do this, right? And so, whatever practitioner, or even if it's some other practitioner, an herbalist, or some other natural health care practitioner that understands fasting, would be a good resource. But just be mindful that everyone does not necessarily believe in fasting or cleansing or detoxing. And so, you want to make sure that you have the support that you need to get through the process, because it's one thing going through the process, and it can be a very challenging time if you're not familiar with, or you can't figure out how to take your mind off of the fasting process itself. But it makes it even more difficult if you have people around you telling you it's not good for you. I don't see how you could do that. You're going to die, you're going to be hungry, or they're eating your favorite meal in front of you. Like, all of those things, are just not positive, and it's not helpful.
Well, let's move on to the next part of our journey, cleansing. So what's the difference between fasting and cleansing?
Well, cleansing is, okay, so fasting is just taking a break from food, from food, or from some beverage. Cleansing is when you're actually going in and trying to clean out parts of the body. So you have some aspect of fasting while you're doing cleansing, because it's really hard to cleanse if you're still eating the same things. When I give talks about fasting and cleansing, and I have PowerPoints, usually I use the example of a house. So if you have a house and you have, a spouse and several kids and the neighborhood kids and your parents and all of these people going through your house might not necessarily be the cleanest, and you might not necessarily have the energy to keep up behind them to keep the house clean. So sometimes you will need to take a break. You'll need to tell everybody, all right, everybody go and do something else, so that, I can just have a break and just sit and be. That would be more like fasting. Cleansing, you would tell them to go away so that you can clean the dishes, so that you can vacuum the floor without it being trampled on by all those other people, so that you can actually, clean out the closet or take care of that project that you've been wanting to do. So you have that aspect of fasting in with your cleanse, but the cleansing is actually going in and working on some part of your body and actually trying to remove whatever waste products, whatever chemicals, whatever toxins, or whatever they might be, so that you can have a better functioning body.
Now, the cleansing piece that you just shared with us, is that a
Mm-hmm.
longer term action? Because like people do, the fasting for a weekend or a few days. From what you explained or just shared with us, is cleansing a more longer or prolonged process?
They both can be pretty short or pretty long. The best outcome is when you do it for longer periods of time, as far as the cleansing is concerned, because oftentimes you'll have, if you don't start cleansing until you are an adult, then you have a lifetime of waste to clean up.
You're scaring
And
me. You're scaring me.
it's not necessarily to make you afraid, but it's a part of reality. Like, you have a lifetime of stuff to
Right.
clean up. So, like, for example, I've had patients, and my mentors have had patients that may have come in with certain sensitivities or certain conditions. They might have high amounts of allergies. They might have pain. They might have inflammation. They might have all of these things. And we go back into their history and find out that as a child, their father may have, did some woodwork or played, did some metal work in the garage, and they were there. Or like when I first moved to Memphis, I worked at one of the airlines. I'm sorry, one of the I worked at one of the packaging companies at one of the airports. And so, I'm on the runways or in that area, and so I'm inhaling fumes from the airplanes. Well, if I were to have done that long term, inhaling those fumes, especially if they are fat soluble, like, they could have gone into my body and just kind of got lodged in there and later caused symptoms. So, it might take some doing to get those things out, but that will come. We wouldn't find that out necessarily until we do some sort of history and figure out what all is going on, what's going on in your past. that won't necessarily be able to be cleaned out in a weekend. If a person moved into a brand new house, the house is new, the carpet is new, the paint is new, all the furniture is new, you might have a lot of off-gassing from the chemicals in that furniture and the carpets and the walls and all of those things. And they might not necessarily attribute it to that, but you might have symptoms ever since I moved into this house. So again, that's not something that can be cleaned in the weekend. So you have to figure out what it is that's going on, what your goals are, and determine how long you need to fast or cleanse in order to help relieve symptoms. You might be able to do it in a few short spurts, so maybe, cleanse for a week or two now, and then a week or two later, and a week or two later, you might see some benefit. You might have to cleanse for a couple years. Do modified. Of course, it wouldn't necessarily be just a juice fast for 2 years, but you might have to do some modified juice fast for several years before you can clean out and feel really good. So it really is individual. And that's, again, why I ask people what their goals are, how much time they have, how much experience they have, how much support they have, because all of these things can be taken into effect when we are trying to create a plan for them.
I will now ask another, continue with the conversation piece here. What are some misconceptions you hear from general society or some of your clients when they come in the first time about cleansing?
One of the things I love to hear from people is that, there's no need to cleanse because the body does it itself, and I don't see a reason for that, and, people shouldn't do it. I kind of like that one. And I appreciate that thought process. And, my first thought is absolutely. The body does it by itself. The body is beautiful. The body is amazing. And we absolutely have a body that does on a regular basis cleanse. But let's go back to the example of the house. So you are the head of the house. You are the person that cleans the house. You have a spouse. You have 3 little kids. You have parents that live with you. So you're usually able to keep up with it. You can pick up the stray cup. You can pick up the stray sock every night, once a week, once a month, however long it is. You vacuum the floors, and you're good. But what happens if all of your children bring 5 of their closest friends home? Well, that might make a bigger mess. And so you may need a little bit extra. Now, you can do that on your own. You might, go out to the store and rent a carpet shampooer to clean the carpet, to clean the upholstery. That's a little bit heavier duty cleanse. But sometimes you might need to hire a maid service. Sometimes you might need to hire a carpet cleaning service to help you get through that process, because either you're not able to keep up with it on your own, or the job is too big for you to handle, period, and still function. And so I liken fasting and cleansing and detoxing to needing the services of a maid service or a carpet cleaning service, not to say that I could not do it on my own, but to say that the job just may have been too much for me to do an adequate job on my own.
Well, you just dropped the third conversation piece we wanted to get. You're so good. Just lead so nice little flow. Well, you're a radio. You're doing it. You're a radio talk show host, so you know all this kind of stuff. You got it going on. So detoxing, what is it? What is detoxing?
So detoxing, the term basically means to take a substance and make it less toxic, or to remove a toxic substance from the body. And cleansing and detoxing are usually used simultaneously because they're pretty much one. It's hard for one to happen without the other. If you're doing some type of cleanse, it's really hard to have a successful cleanse if you are not, if the substances that you are cleansing are not being made less harmful. If they're not able to be made less harmful by your body or by the substances that you use, then your cleanse, your fast, your process might become more harmful to you. And so that's another reason why it's important to know what's going on in your body and to have support, so that if something actually does come up, you can be supported through that process, and you have someone help you figure out what's happening, and then you can work through how to best figure that out. So you might need some additional supplementation. You might need to stop the fast or slow down the fast so that you don't go into a more negative response. You might need to change your treatment strategy. You might need to add colonics or enemas to your process. Like, there's a lot of different things that can be added, but all of these things, would really depend on what's happening. So the term detox and the term cleanse are more synonymous than not. I hadn't really found anything that tells me that detoxing and cleansing are completely separate.
With the clients that come up to you, the patients that come up to you, what are they asking for out of the three? What are the most popular of the three that they're asking for, and what are you prescribing to them out of the three?
Usually people that talk about cleanses the most.
And why is that?
I think it's because that's the term that's most popular, that they see the most, that they may understand the most. So that's the term that I believe is used the most. And so that's just how I talk about it. Usually if I have a patient that comes in and it's determined that they need to do some level of fasting, cleansing, or detoxing, then regardless of what term I use, I'm usually looking at the entire picture to see what is happening with them to determine which aspect of that I'm going to use for that person.
What are some of the things that you'd like to see in general society on how we should be treating ourselves better? Because these are, no, and it is an important conversation piece, because you have a very unique and focused view on improving our health. What are some suggestions? Well, okay, what are some of the common issues you're seeing? I think we may have went over them in the introduction, but what are some of the common hot current issues when it comes to health that are, in your opinion, big concerns at this present time?
What are some of the concerns that I feel are
some of the health issues? Let me put it that way. Some of the health issues that you're seeing your patients come to you that they're having challenges with at this present time.
Like I mentioned before, you have obesity, you have diabetes, you have high cholesterol, hypertension, you have fatigue, just general fatigue, you have pain, you have inflammation. Those are some of the top ones that I see. Headaches, skin issues. All of these things can be helped with some level of fasting and cleansing, because anytime someone comes to me with any of those, I usually know that there's some level of malnutrition and toxicity within their bodies. Now, how much of either one determines what they have going on, but it's usually some level of both of them. And how we address it, again, is individual, and it really depends on the person. But any of those can be treated with some level of fasting, cleansing, and detoxing.
Are more of your clients male or female, or your patients male or female?
Oh, you already know. More females go to the doctor than males. Males don't go to the doctor until something's fallen off.
Oh my gosh. Can I quote you on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They wait till something is fallen off, or they wait until they can't have sex anymore. And so.
Okay, that's even a more powerful quote. Okay.
And so, when I do have males that come in, especially if it's one of those two, then I try to address it. But of course, I'm going to infuse my thoughts and my treatment into their treatment protocol.
So let's just focus in on the men here. What are men not doing right when it comes to treating themselves proper, and what sort of suggestions do you have for them? Since the ladies seem to come to you more and seem to be turning themselves around, what are men not doing right, and what suggestions would you like to make for the male listeners out there, or the people who love their men out there?
Well, I'll start with the quote, the The guy that is the main host for the radio show that I do, one time he said, bravado kills more men than anything else. So, bravado and ego kill a lot of men, because a lot of men, I mean, if a man doesn't want to ask for directions when he's lost, you know good and well he's not going to go to a doctor and say, doctor, it hurts when, right here, until it's unbearable. So I would say to men to be more proactive in health. It's not unmanly to go to a doctor and say, this is what's going on, let's take care of it now before it becomes a problem. That's not unmanly at all. A doctor can help them through that process and to help them lessen the severity of whatever's going on. It's not like they're whining. It's not like they're, and it's just getting over the bravado, the male ego.
Well, I am blessed to say that I go to my doctor every 3 months, and not because I'm sick, but I think it's just preventative, and I go the extra mile. And I've said this in the past, I believe a few times on the show, that I have the same doctor as my father.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Any challenges he's had health-wise, my doctor is on the look that I don't encounter them, or as preventative as possible to having them.
Right, and that's awesome, because then you already have a built-in family history going to the doctor just automatically. So, and especially because it's a male, because it's your father's doctor and you're a man, you have some of those things that will follow you as a man that you may be predisposed to genetically or familially. So your doctor can already be mindful of that, and because you see him more often, he will have a better opportunity to catch something if something starts to go awry or something seems to not be right. So that's an awesome thing, definitely.
Thank you. I want to find out, how did you get into the radio career?
That actually kind of fell into my lap. When I was a student, there was a naturopath at my school who taught men's health and urology. And he was a part of an organization, the same organization that I work with now. He had asked if anyone else wanted to accompany him while he did prostate exams, just as a learning experience, because, when you're doing 30, 40, 50 prostate exams within a 3 or 4 hour period, it's much different than doing one every month, every 2 months, every, several months. And so I had the opportunity to do that. And after graduation, I, stayed with that organization so that I could learn more and continue to learn. And the guy who's over the organization decided to start the radio show and asked me if I wanted to co-host with him. So that just kind of fell into my lap.
And how long have you been doing that for now?
It's oh wow, it's been about 4.5 years.
Congratulations.
It started in like October of 2009. Thank you.
And what benefits? What benefits have you gotten from doing that radio show? How's it been fulfilling for you?
One, because I'm able to reach a higher level of people, or a higher number of people. The radio station actually reaches most of Arizona. So, I know that most people in Arizona, if they're able to get the radio station, they're able to hear our message. And because the show is aired on the internet, anybody in the world can hear whatever we have to talk about. I've also been introduced to a lot of wonderful practitioners and activists and humanitarian type people, because the host of the show, I'm a co-host, so the host of the show has actually been here in the Valley for 20 years, and he's been in politics for most of his life. He knows a lot of people. He has a lot of connections. So I've been able to meet some of the top surgeons, some of the top physicians, some of the top heads of organizations that I may not have been able to meet, at least not in this short period of time. So that's another thing. And I've been able to talk to them a little bit about what it is that I do. And so, being able to meet them and to discuss with them some of my views on whatever their specialty is and introduce them to naturopathic medicine, or at least further their understanding of naturopathic medicine, along with the fact that I get to talk to people. I have a platform where I can share my thoughts, my views, and my philosophy to people. It's been hugely beneficial. And I don't really have a problem speaking in front of people, but it's actually helped me, in that regard, because when you're on the radio for an hour every week, for 4 years, you grow. You grow quite a bit. And I'm still growing, of course, but it's definitely been a good experience in that regard.
With all the things that you've done, can you give some special moments during your journey so far in the world of naturopathic medicine?
Oh, wow.
You know what? Before you answer that, before
Okay.
you go there, sorry. Do you remember the first time you went on the radio, and how was it?
You know what? Actually, the first time I went on the radio, I was probably in like junior high school. I don't remember specifically, but I remember my pastor had a radio show, and he would bring me to the radio station, and he would
Oh,
teach me how to
wow.
work the boards. And so
Okay.
I remember a couple times that I would introduce it. My name is Tursha Hamilton, and you're listening to, and I don't even remember the name of the show, but I remember doing that. And I think my mom reminded me of that a few years ago. So that was
Very
like my
cool.
first radio experience.
Nice.
Once I got into this particular radio show, I don't remember the first show, but I remember those first few shows being nervous
Right.
because I don't have a problem speaking in front of people, but it was new.
Right.
So, just the newness of it. I still get nervous, when I'm doing public appearances, but I get over that a lot more quickly.
Well, I think you get nervous because you care and you want to do your best. That's why you get nervous.
That's a big part of it, absolutely.
Good
Absolutely.
stuff.
And I want to give a message that people will hear. One reason why people like hearing me speak is because I try to speak in terms that people understand. And so I don't do a lot of jargon. I speak conversationally. When I talk, I say words like poop and you know what I'm saying, like words that, exactly. So like I talk like that so that people can actually hear me.
Right.
And I think that
relate to you.
and relate to what I'm saying, absolutely. And I try to give examples, like I said, like the house. I give examples that people can understand, because if you automatically go in and say, I'm not going to listen because she's a naturopath, she's not a real doctor, I'm not going to listen because I don't believe in cleansing, I'm not going to listen because X, Y, Z. If I can figure out how to speak your language, you're more likely to hear what I have to say. And that's my biggest concern. I want to make sure that people understand what I have to say. You don't necessarily have to agree with it, but at least hear me out and let's have a dialogue.
Do you have any regrets? And I know that I probably know the answer to this conversation piece, and you're already smiling. Living in Arizona. Tell us what it's been like.
Arizona is a special place. It's very unique. It is a place where most people that are here are not from here. So it's interesting because it doesn't have, let me not say it that way. It has a lot of culture in that you have the culture of a lot of people who are not from here. So a lot of different people come here and create a culture. It's different because it is a desert, and to go from being in the South where I had water and green trees and green grass and rain, coming to a place where everything is a shade of brown and there is no water. The green is really a shade of brown. It's just been very interesting. So Arizona is, it's interesting. Very, very interesting.
There's more to that, but obviously we're winding down now, so you conveniently are getting out of that answer. We'll get you next time. No problem. It's all good. Well, before we let you go, we got to say thanks very much for, after a year and a half, finally spending some time with us, and there's more to come. So that's great news. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share with our audience in regards to fasting, cleansing, and detoxing?
I guess I would say that if you are considering either one, fasting, cleansing, or detoxing, make sure that you are mentally prepared for it. Get as much of a support system as you can. Drink lots of water before you do it, while you're doing it, after you're doing it, just so that you can make sure that you are helping your body through this process. And if you need more validation, go to your spiritual leaders and talk to them about fasting. Even if you don't do the cleansing piece, talk to them about fasting, because I believe that more people will understand the importance of fasting if they look at it from a spiritual perspective. They'll be more willing to do it, and they'll see how it can be beneficial to them mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And during the process, they're better able to see some of the things that they need to fortify or work on in their lives. So if nothing else, try it for like a day, and see how it goes and build from there. But I believe it can be very beneficial for everyone. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And if people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
The easiest way to connect with me is to go to my website. My website is www.drtursha.com. That's DRTURSHA.com. You can learn more about me, more about naturopathic medicine. You can see my events page will tell you some of the other events that I will be speaking at, whether they are in person or on the radio or over the internet, within anyone that I have going on. If you want to talk to me about a consultation, whether it's in person or online, you can contact me through my website. So that's www.drtursha.com. And if you would like to know more about the book that I am about to release in a little bit less, no, actually it's a month from today. So yay! So if you want to know more about my book, you can also go to the website and learn about that there. That's again www.drtursha.com.
And what's the title of the book coming out?
The book is called Practically Healthy: Step-by-Step Guide to Better Health.
And we'll be blessed and highly favored that we're going to be speaking with Dr. Tursha a few days before that book goes live.
Yay!
So we're really fired up, and we're jacked that we're going to have that opportunity. She's going to take some time to share about the book with us. And get ready for that book. So if you didn't get any of the contact information, it's already, if you're watching this live, just scroll down a little bit, and all the contact information is part of the post.
Awesome.
And if you're watching this not live, it's already there, all the information if you want to connect with Dr. I just call her Dr. T, not Mrs. T, but Dr. T.
That's all right. Call me Dr. T. That's fine.
Dr. T. And so we're very happy that she had some time to share with us tonight. It's Dr. Vibe here. You are watching and listening to the Dr. Vibe Show. If you want to touch base with me, just go to the website, www.drvibeshow.com. All my contact information is there. If you want to hit me via Twitter, it's at drvibeshow. You can catch me at the Good Men Project. As I said, I host and co-produce a monthly Google Hangouts for the Good Men Project, and I'm the only online show that is featured on a regular basis at the Good Men Project. So check it out. Remember, you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and you're a solution for someone's problem. As always, God bless, peace be well, and keep the faith. Dr. T, looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.